Hey everybody, spoilers for all things John Wick. We'll be talking about all three John Wick films and then what we are hoping to see in the Continental miniseries. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Script Department. I'm John. I'm joined today by Asim and Laura to talk about all things John Wick. We're all big John Wick nerds here, so this is going to be a pretty in-depth conversation, hopefully, about the franchise. Before we get into that, if you haven't already, do check out the website, thescriptdepartment.net, for all the latest projects that we get up to with our global network of screenwriters. Hit us up on social media. You can find the links in the description. And do subscribe to our podcast, The Script Department, wherever you get your podcasts. And subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. So I'm a big John Wick fan, but I came to the franchise a bit late. I came to it before the third one hit the cinemas. I had seen the first one on a train journey. I was just looking for anything that I could download easily on the dodgy Wi-Fi on the train, and this 90-minute film, or however long it was the best I could kind of get, and so I just started watching it. I'd always made the assumption that this was one of those really kind of cheap action movies, is kind of a DVD bargain bin type movie that I just would have no time for, or that I would be a bit dare I say, beneath me. It was just one of these things where I thought I could watch a Marvel movie instead or something like that. And I feel really bad saying that, because actually I really love the film. I remember pausing it all the time and showing it to Michaela and just saying, "Here, look at this action scene. Look what he does with the gun. Look how violent this is," and things like that. And I was so blown away by the idea of a dog having so much. This isn't, you've killed my family. This isn't, you've done this. You've done. It's I had a puppy. It has a connection to my family, and you've taken that from me, and now you're going to pay. And he just goes to war basically over it. And I just think that's the most amazing inciting incident. And I'm kind of jumping all over the place here but if I'm gushing over it, it's because it really did resonate with me, and it really did kind of. And I'm not even a dog owner, so I don't know what it just did something, and I just thought, that's it, yeah, I'm in. And then the second one I really loved, because as somebody who travels to Rome quite a lot, I loved that John Wick went to Italy, and seeing all the Italian actors and stuff like that were in it. I just thought it was amazing. And by the time the third one was in the cinema, I had my ticket for day one, and I loved every second of it. And I went to see it with my neighbor, who's a huge John Wick fan. He's kind of the guy who really made me kind of appreciate what they were. And I mean, we were the loudest people in the cinema, and I'm never like that. But there's moments where like a horse kicks a guy in the face, and it's just so the violence and the action is so out there. I remember just like shouting at the screen, and I never do that. These films have awakened like an unpleasant audience member in me, and I love it. So I can't wait for chapter 4. I don't know how long they're going to keep this up, but it does seem like they'll keep this going forever. We'll talk about where this could go in the future at the end. Can't wait for the Continental miniseries. We'll talk about that as well. But yeah, I think I've gushed over it enough. Laura, what's your experience with John Wick? How did you come to it? I don't know, what does it mean to you?
Pretty similar to you, actually. I came late into the franchise, and the first and the second had been released. And then I was hooked straight away. I think I'm a huge action fan. I always have been since I was younger. And there's something about John Wick that just like stood out amongst everything else. The action is like embedded into the story, and it's not like 1 minute it's just like a film and then they cut to the action. Like, it's just really in there, really just done so well. And yeah, and the aesthetic of everything, like, it's just such a good film. And yeah, that's what it means. Yeah, it's great.
I see.
Well, I came actually from the first time. It actually showed on the cinema in 2014. I just bought my first ticket, and I couldn't wait because before that, a couple of months earlier, I actually just watched 47 Ronin, and I couldn't wait to see Keanu. I'm a big fan of Keanu, but this one just gave me so much impact about what's going to happen in this one, in the first one. And I think I'm going with Laura in terms of the storytelling. The storytelling itself, it's not typical to the action films that we actually used to see in the late 80s, the late 20s and 90s, and even the 2000s. It's even different than the fight scenes in The Matrix, although they are the same fight choreographers.
Mm.
But they actually expanded into a more tactical, more discrete kind of action fight, which is a huge changing in this kind of category. And ever since, I've been, I just go there to the cinema and watch it. And I couldn't resist just hold myself in the seat and just not shout. But yeah, it's very appealing. And about the dog, this is a very good screenwriting tip that you actually connect that puppy to whatever your main character is actually need to get him to get the ball rolling and get the ball with snowballing. And every time you see from one scene to the other, it's just snowballing. And every time you see that, you learn a little bit about him, but at the same time you actually respect him. That's good screenwriting, to be honest.
Yeah, I've started using John Wick in some of my teaching now as well, because we talk about creating, not just creating a good inciting incident, but creating an identifiable inciting incident, creating something that the audience can connect to, giving and assigning, allowing the audience to assign values to the protagonist and project values onto the protagonist. If you don't care about the protagonist's values, you're not going to risk your emotional fragility to follow them into battle. You're not going to want, you're happy to follow Maximus into battle in Gladiator because he's lost everything, but he's lost everything based on decisions that you might have made as well. Because we like to think we're all decent human beings that would choose family over wealth and power and all that kind of stuff. And I talk about Alien all the time as well. You've got this person who is smart enough to know, no, we can't let them back on the ship because this could go something's wrong, and she's overridden, she's overruled, and then all hell goes loose. Well, if you want to now side with somebody in that movie to survive, let's say, well, you're going to side with the person who was smart enough not to let them on in the first place. And so you need those kinds of decision making processes. And I think what John Wick does is just so masterfully simple. Simple in all the best ways. He lost his wife. He didn't lose his wife because of some, assassination attempt or anything like that. It was just, she just passed away. Like, this is a man who is a master at survival, but couldn't protect his wife from life. It was just life being unfair. And before she dies, she gets him a puppy, and it arrives after the funeral, and he's now heartbroken and kind of overjoyed at the same time, I guess. He has this reluctant relationship with the puppy.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying the puppy isn't allowed sleep on the bed, but then the puppy kind of gets to sleep on the bed? Am I right in that? Yeah. There's this lovely kind of just building this relationship up, and it happens so quickly in the running time of the film, but it feels so well paced and earned. And it's just such simple little things that are symbolically connected to the idea of, this is the bed where my wife used to sleep. You don't get to sleep on this yet. That kind of thing. And it's like beautifully done. And then these guys come, and they're not even targeting him. They steal his car, and they accidentally, or they kill the dog. They don't accidentally kill the dog. They kill the dog because they're cruel bastards, and that kind of ties back to, I think, one other great thing about that inciting incident, which is its coincidence. the whole thing throughout the movie is, you what? You killed John, you stole John Wick's car. You what? You killed his dog. What? John Wick? Are you kidding me? Like, of all the people, and he's like, well, what's the big deal? And that's the brilliance of it as well. It's not just the whole thing with the puppy, but it's the fact it's coincidence that leads these people to his door.
Yes.
It wasn't, I'm going to be the guy to finally get one up on John Wick. My dad couldn't, but I'm going to. It wasn't that. It was just coincidence. And you need a little bit of coincidence, I think, in your inciting incidents as well. I think most revenge movies are built on coincidence. Sometimes I think the best revenge movies are built on coincidence, where it's, this could happen to you or I. And now what are you going to do about it? What am I going to do about it? That kind of thing,
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, Laura, you talked a lot about the first 10 pages of John Wick in your blog post for the website. I'll put the link in the description for that. Was there anything is there anything else about that first 10 minutes, 10 pages of the script that I can jump out at you, or anything we haven't kind of touched on?
Yeah, a little bit. Yosef's character was made in the film to be a little bit more kind of aggressive than he was in the script. Also, John Wick, he's been out of the game in the script quite a bit longer than he had in the film. So he was much older. His wife was older as well. And, you're like, if he kind of went on this path, would he even do it? Could he do it now? But when he was put in the film, he was aged down a bit. But yeah, all these significant plot points are in there. They might not be exactly the same, but they are in there. The symbolism of Daisy, the dog, and then the card that his wife gives him has a daisy on it, and all that kind of stuff. It's all linked up very well. And there's also, I think, a necklace or a bracelet of his wife's that has daisies on it as well. So the symbolism's all there. Like it's a little bit has changed. I think that's kind of the producers stepping in and being like, we need to kind of make this a bit more modern and a bit more kind of, flashy. But yeah, all the significant plot points are still there, really.
You mentioned that, is it Losef? Is it the son?
Yosef, yeah.
Yosef, sorry. He, you described him as being less aggressive, is it, or less? I mean,
yes.
How is it different for you?
In their initial interaction, he only says like a couple of words, but even though he is trying to be a bit like intimidating, in the actual film, it's a bit more like, it's a bit more intimidating, and John Wick's a bit more like, no, like, stop it. He like swears at him basically. But,
yeah.
But in the script, it's not as intense as that. It's a bit more passing, like, oh, it's just a casual disagreement. But in the film, it comes across as like, no, these guys both mean business right here. Like, it's just two men in a gas station at this point, But like the film brings more weight to that interaction, so something's going to come of this later on. But yeah.
Asim, what else? I think there's a lot we can talk about the rest of the movie, but I want to make sure we don't neglect the other movies as well. I think for me, the inciting incident, that first 10 minutes, that Laura kind of brilliantly dissects in the blog post, is I think is there anything else about that?
I would say
to me that's like one of the real strong points of the entire series.
I think they actually made it breathe, take its time to settle down and understand what's really going on, at least from the surface, because they're going to take us on a roller coaster that we will never breathe, with the action scenes after that. So this is a very good way to set up everything, take your breath, as they say, and just explain everything in its own time, in its own pace, and set up everything that actually going to come with it. And every consequences is going to be happening in the film. And I think what make it unique is, even before he goes to fight, we start to understand that this guy, John Wick, is not someone you want to mess with. not just because his puppy, but because of his reputation. And as you say, when Yosef went to the car dealer and he said, I want you to do something for this. I was like, who's John? And he knows that it's John Wick. He said, where did you take it? He said, someone blah, 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 blah. He said, it's John Wick's car. So you understand that there is something about it. There is a backstory. There is a reputation that's really going to come up one way or the other. But at the same time, they're giving you time to understand who is he and why he's doing this. And you don't, it's like a can of worms. You don't want to open it because it's going to, I think instead of the worms, it's like a cobra. It's going to go out and kill you. And I like that. I like that about how people talk about your main character without him being there. That's a very good way to expose storytelling and also expose, his relationship with Yusuf's father. And what did he actually ask him in the last mission in order to get out of this, this reunion or this mafioso kind of way. So I think with the...
No, yeah. I was going to say, there's one thing I really loved about, and it's like, I get goosebumps watching that scene where the father is telling the son, like, this is who this man is. And he's telling him the story about, I can't even remember what
it's the pencil one.
The pencil one, yeah. And it's, so is somebody tell me the story again? What is it that he did? Like, what's the legend of John Wick?
He killed 3 people in with a pencil.
With a pencil. That's it. It's as simple as that.
It becomes so like a meme that even he killed Thanos with a pencil. And Captain America said, what? So it becomes a meme, a very exciting thing to understand how powerful this guy is and how a death machine he is. But at the same time, it doesn't show on him, unless he starts to go into fight mode. I would say when he takes off his shirt and we see this kind of beautiful tattoos and what does these tattoos actually mean in the Russian culture. So it's really, and I like how they went as authentic as it is with the tattoos. The same thing they did with Eastern Promises. I don't know if you ever seen it. It's a 2007. Yeah. It's one of the beautiful movies, but they actually focus also on the tattoos and what do they mean with the Russian mafia. So it's really exciting to see kind of things that expels so much details about your character without a word, just visually.
And just that story that the father tells the kind of the head crime boss tells his son, I would put that on par with the scene in The Usual Suspects of them talking about Kaiser Soze, the kind of the backstory of Kaiser Soze. I think it achieves so much, and the music. I think the John Wick score is, as that kind of theme that they have, is one of the best themes for any. I don't think the Matrix movies have anything close to that in terms of its effectiveness for what that we're trying to achieve in those movies. I don't think most Marvel movies have. I think some Marvel movies have great themes related, but I think the John Wick theme could be considered one of the best kind of superhero themes in a way. I know he's not a superhero character, but if you want to line up all these unkillable characters in a row, there's just something incredible about what they did with that, with the music in that film. And, that's the reason why, I keep coming back to this in my own head when I think about John Wick, because, there are movies out there that you can tell it's a quick payday for everybody. There's no real love or heart or kind of, passion being put into this. It's just going to be, we're just getting 2 action movie stars and we're just putting in another basic action movie. And we're seeing that a lot with a load of kind of, let's say, quote unquote, kind of, old time action movie stars, and I just always assumed, well, this is just a quick payday for Keanu Reeves. And it's really not. The effort that went into this film, the love that really went into this film in terms of just everything from action and story and characters. The characters, you feel like you've lived with these characters for years. Willem Dafoe is in this. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, I mean, moving beyond the first movie, I mean, is there anything else you want to talk about in the first movie, Laura or Asim? Actually, we wanted to talk about how the differences between the scripts, didn't we? So, Laura, what was you've like you said, you've kind of deconstructed the original script. Talk to me about how that's different.
I mean, the main difference I think is just that he's older in the script, and they kind of age him down. I think for the action as well. I think if he was older, you wouldn't be able to do what Keanu did. And I think at certain points, like, you're supposed to feel like he's a bit rusty. And you're supposed to feel like he's kind of, I don't know, like he's really like almost on his last legs so much of the time. And then you think, how can he give like any more? And then he does, you know. And I feel like that's in the film. But then, yeah, I think the main reason they did that is just so they could get away with what they did in terms of the action.
And does he survive at the end of the script? You know, given that he's much older in that script, like I think anybody would. I think normally that's a kind of a you're on your last legs, aren't you? So yeah, you're gonna die at the end. Like, does he die at the end?
I don't think so.
No, it's ambiguous. I would say
It's ambiguous.
The ending
Okay.
was ambiguous. Yeah, I didn't think they wanted to not have a sequel at that time, but I think a lot of the action scene was in the movie, but wasn't in the script as well. You know, there's if you compare it to the script, it's like 20% in the script and 80% on screen. So that's how different they are because the time range that they put.
And it wasn't called John Wick. It was called
No, CERN, I think. CERN.
Scorned,
Soren, something like that. Yeah.
like scorned, like you've been burnt, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, Scorn.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. So it's not, and it doesn't even relate to his name, does it?
No.
And is his name John Wick in the script?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, that's interesting. Yeah, it is interesting how, you guys talk about how, possibly to do with, we need to make him younger so we can get away with doing this kind of action or whatever. It almost seems like Keanu Reeves coming on board is like, yeah, we'll just make him younger, because if Keanu Reeves wants to do this, are we really going to say no? And then it kind of evolved from that. But it is a really interesting example of how all the best kind of laid plans in your script can change as soon as the right actor comes on board, because ultimately they're going to be bringing all this to life, and casting does play a huge part in how these stories do evolve and change. I wonder, given that this franchise has so much life in it, and I doubt Chapter 4 will be the last time we ever see John Wick, even if he died or something at the end of John Wick 4 or whatever, I imagine you could find ways to bring him back, 10, 20 years from now. I mean, if they can do a Matrix 4, they can do I imagine in this world they can do another John Wick. And you could almost have the John Wick as originally intended. Like Keanu Reeves can age into the original vision that Derek Kolstad had, which could be interesting, actually. The other thing would be, will audiences at that point know that this was the original plan? Like when they wanted to do Old Man Wolverine.
Oh, okay.
It like people lost their minds at the promise of that, because that was always the kind of the long-term goal with that character in the comics and stuff like that, is to get to Old Man Wolverine. How do you get to that in, if we can get into that in movie? You couldn't do that at the beginning of Hugh Jackman's career, but it's very possible for him now to portray an older character, because he's older than he was, and Keanu Reeves can absolutely age into that role very quickly. If you got Ewan McGregor suiting up to be like Alec Guinness in a new then you can absolutely do the old man John Wick. Yeah. Which I think wouldn't be that far down. It wouldn't be unreal. It wouldn't be kind of implausible for audiences. But you
I
got to
would, I
make
would,
sure. I think you got to make sure audiences are aware that this is the potential for it. Did you know
yeah,
that John Wick was originally envisioned as an older man?
yeah.
And you've got to get that into the minds of the audience first, so that when you then announce it, then 10, 15 years from now, you're like, oh my god, we're finally getting it. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's also continuous kind of things outside the film industry, which is the comic books they have for John Wick, and it's kind of relating part one with part two. And it's like I actually bought the comic, and it's actually kind of the bridge between chapter one and chapter two. So I'm waiting for the other comic, which is the bridge between chapter two and chapter three. So I think this is a way also to make him get older and older by time. I think one of the things that's in the first one, which is John Wick 1 or chapter 1, was so hard to do and probably took time to settle is explain the world. The hotel, the universe, what's really going on, how things are done, on the premise. Then going into the sequel, or the third film, because that's where you set all your bases, then you play on it. I would say so. They actually did a good job that made people interested to know more about the hotel, to know more about the grounds, to know more about what kind of rules and regulations that happen and who actually work there.
So
And
let's just explain
yeah,
that. So just very quickly. So this, because I wanted to talk about the world of this movie actually, and we'll get your thoughts and just see if I'm the only one that thinks this. So there is a world that there are these hotels called the Continental, and
yes,
they're all around the world, and they're the safe. They're kind of hallowed ground where you can't commit violence, and it's where all the assassins like John Wick are able to. They've got safe rooms and things like that and they can get supplies and they can get healthcare, I guess, if they need a
yes,
doctor or
yeah,
something like that. And you've got the who is it? Lance Reddick plays the hotel manager. Lance Reddick from The Wire and the Horizon video games. He plays the hotel concierge. Is it? He's credited as hotel manager, but
yeah.
and then you've got Ian McShane, who
Oh my,
is he's so brilliant in it, isn't he? He's the
I
What's his
love him.
deal? Is he the owner of the Continental system, or is he just the owner of that particular hotel?
I think
I
it's
th-
that hotel.
that
That
hotel.
hotel.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And so he's very much he wouldn't be the mentor to John Wick, I guess, but he's like the M or something to John Wick, I guess. He'll be the guy who says,
Yes.
he's kind of whispering in John Wick's ear, giving him philosophical advice every now and again, almost. But he is at the same time, he enjoys the luxury that the hotel provides. He enjoys the good life that assassination economy provides for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's these people. They're like phone operators in a somewhere else on the Continental grounds, I'm guessing. And when a hit goes out, it goes into their system, and it's like all these kind of operators using old technology to put up a kind of a news blast. It's like they're sending out an old-fashioned tweet or something
Yes.
to say, Laura, Asim, John are now on the chopping block, and here's the price for doing it and whatever.
Yeah.
And so there is this whole business around. It's not just John Wick lost his puppy and I'm going to kill everybody who responsible. It's I'm in this. There's an economy of violence here where this is how we all make our living. And this is a big part of chapter 2, where so chapter 2 is that an Italian crime boss comes to him and says, I want you to do a job for me. John Wick says no. They blow up John Wick's house. And then he has to go and do the job now because of that. But when he does the job, he says, right now I'm going to kill this guy because I haven't forgotten. So you've been recruited to do a job, but it's also a revenge mission as well at the end. So it's almost like you're getting two journeys or two plots in one. Do you guys prefer that film to the first one? I think I prefer that film to the first one. How do you guys feel about that, about chapter 2?
Laura, go on.
Um, I think the second one is better in my opinion, but it also is definitely built off the back of the first one, so you can't negate that. But I think they just took everything they did so well in the first one and made it more expensive and prettier, and just they could bring more to it because they've already proved themselves. So, but yeah, definitely. I think the second one, just the music, the locations, the lighting, the world building, everything, they just really went for it, and they, as you said, they set the basis for like the franchise. I feel more in that film than they did in the first, and then they kind of really built on that, and everything is going to stand on top of that again. So yeah, I think the second one, in my opinion, is better than the first. Yeah.
It does expand the world, doesn't it? Yeah, which I really appreciated actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
Asim,
and
what?
for me, I think the first one, because it's not just to be different, but I love when we see one character go through so many hells, and in the end he actually succeed. And also, there's with Defoe as a friendship. I'm always with the friendship kind of side. He is a good character, and I love how he is respecting John Wick, although they are both assassins, and he was given this mission to assassinate actually John Wick, but he died for it. So loyalty is very important in that theme, and that kind of way of showing, even in that very bloody universe, or that world, there's still real friendship, and there's still people are not going to stab you in the back, which is different than when we see anything else from every other action movie. I like it because it's much more as a single kind of character. You're trying to be in his shoes, and you're going and understanding the story piece by piece. But the second one gave us much more details in terms of the world, and also the necklace that he actually have, or something like a square with the blood, and that's the thing that forces John Wick to kill, to do for the mafia boss, his bidding. Then in the end, he's actually against him.
So it's
So
it's a blood oath, isn't it? It's like this pendant
yes,
that they all have,
yes, it's a blood
and
oath.
there's a little prick in it, and you have to, or a little needle or something, and you open it, you stick your thumb in. You've now bled into it, and then you close it again or
Yes.
something, and it's
Mm.
like that's the you have to do the mission now or something. What's the rule around that?
It's saved. He actually saved him. The mafia boss saved John Wick in the past, so he actually took an oath to pay him back whenever the time comes.
Oh, that's it. It's
Yeah.
an oh,
So
it's a
he-
debt. It's a debt,
yes,
isn't it? Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like you
yeah,
owe me one now, so
yeah,
you
yeah,
you
yeah,
have
yeah,
to fill it.
yeah.
Yeah, that was really good to see it, and also John Wick also have the same oath, and we see the third one.
Mm. So
We
the
see it.
yeah, and I have to say, I like, just again, I mean, I get giddy now anytime I see Rome or whatever in a movie now, because it's just down the road. But it's I love the idea that he goes to Rome and he kills the head of the largest, I think, the largest crime. Yeah, he kills basically the largest crime boss in Italy, and but no, she takes her own life because she knows that isn't that right? Yeah. So they go. He finds her when she's in her private kind of bathroom. She got this big kind of old fashioned bath or whatever, and it's and there's this kind of back and forth between the two, and she's just kind of accepting her fate. Yeah, I think when he's not looking, then she takes her life, and it's a really interesting approach. They're kind of building up to this idea of like he's going to have to kill this person, but he doesn't, and it's almost like, instead of it being underwhelming, it's no, we're actually going to give you an entire other movie here in the second half now, where he's going to have to fight to get himself out of the clutches of her brother. It's her brother that has put out the hit on her,
Yes.
back in New York. So he ends up killing the Italian, the brother,
Yes.
uh, on continental ground in the restaurant, which is so brilliant.
Yes.
And he's now broken that cardinal rule. And he's then, Ian McShane is like, I've got to, I'll give you 1 hour or whatever it is and you're out. And then, okay, so this is now, I'm getting to kind of the question that I had for you guys. So the last shot, the last scene is just amazing for me. It's one of the best scenes of any action we've ever seen. It's John Wick exhausted. It basically might as well be old man John Wick that you described, Laura. It's him running, limping as fast as he can, as fast as the dog is faster. He's got this kind of this new dog that he's rescued at the end of the first film, isn't it? And
yeah, pitbull.
He's kind of he's this pitbull, and he's coming with him the whole time. But the dog is faster than John Wick, which I know it would be anyway. But it's like he's even on a leash. He's still kind of. It's almost like the dog is saying, "Catch up, come on." And he's really struggling, and they're running through Central Park, and you start seeing the alert going out that John Wick there's now a bounty on his head, and you see everybody's phones lighting up. There's like a homeless person on the street, and his phone lights up, and he gets the message, and you see a person sitting on the bench, their phone lights up. You see a person walking past, and now they're looking at John Wick because they've got the message as well. And it feels like almost everybody in New York has got the message, right? There's also a moment earlier on where there's this rival assassin that's kind of got this little kind of mini feud going on with John Wick. And they're both trying to shoot at each other with silencers in this kind of subway station or in this shopping mall, I can't remember what. And one guy is up on one level and John Wick is down at the bottom. And they're both kind of just secretly shooting at each other with silencers and nobody's batting an eye. There's this great YouTube video where they've replaced it with realistic silencer sound effects, and it's so loud, there's no way, like they're really dumbing it down, but okay, here's my question for you. Is this a world where everybody accepts that there are just assassins doing their thing around the place? Because I had this theory after I came away from John Wick 3, and we can talk about John Wick 3 now, but I had this theory where I was like, is it possible that there are no politicians in this world and that it's just crime bosses? And that like maybe there was some sort of revolt or some sort of like, maybe the organized crime infiltrated government and just took over governments or something. I don't know. I mean, I'm getting crazy now, but it just feels like this is a world with so many, they've got all these rules. They've got the Continental, there's kind of codes of honor and all that. There are moments in John Wick 3 where like there are dead bodies falling down and people don't even bat an eye. And you can look at it and say, well, that's not realistic that people would behave that way and somebody just got stabbed right in front of them or something like that. But it seems like in this world, it's just the way it is. You know that there are these people doing this thing and you won't get hurt. You're a bystander. You're not going to get hurt. You're innocent. You're a civilian. But everybody else, like it's fair game. If you're in the business, you're fair game. Do you think that when people walk past and they see a homeless person in New York, they think, oh yeah, that's an assassin? Like that's my question to you. Is that actually, and you've read the comics, so maybe, I don't know, maybe there's more evidence to reinforce that. It's never explicitly stated.
Yeah, they never actually said anything about the government. It's like they're having their own universe, their own world, and even the way they behave is different. Even if we go to the first one, there's barely humans. You barely see anyone actually in the streets walking or something like that. But even when he starts to shoot in the nightclub with Yusuf actually in the bath, and people the girls are going to start, cry and go out and run away because he is next to them. The bullet can be in their head. But two of the girls actually got shot, right? So it's like, that's typical. It's like a normal life. They didn't even fledge. They didn't even do anything. There's no cops, actually, unless in the first one.
Yeah.
The first one, when the cop actually came to John Wick when he was actually attacked and he was killing him, and he said, "Are you back in the game?" And he said, "Oh no, just a little cleanup."
Yeah,
that's the only thing. And it's like the police are not trying to get into any of the business these people are going. Let them do what they do. we're not gonna get into any kind of mess with him.
And in any other gangster movie, let's say, you could say, well, that's just the cops are paid off or whatever, or the cops know better or whatever. But in this, it literally feels like that it is part of the day, like it is that these rules, like these pendants, the gold coins, all that stuff, like they know. Yeah, that's why I thought about this. This is the thing that made me thought. In John Wick 3, John Wick has these old gold coins that are worth, like they're continental free passes or something like that, aren't they? Right? And he gives one to a taxi driver. He just hails a taxi. A taxi comes and he gives it to the taxi driver, and the taxi driver knows what to do with it. And that made me think, is everybody in on this? Like the taxi drivers, the police, the civilians on the streets. Yeah, it's just two guys shooting at silencers, but I know they're not going to hit me by accident. It's just let them be. Just let them get on with it, you know? I don't know, Laura, what do you think of my crazy theory? Is there any way to it?
I think I kind of like, yeah. I mean, if you think about it logically, there has to be.
Yeah, what is that? Is that your John, you're crazy?
No, you're not crazy. There has to be a reason that no one's reacting to it. But if you think about it, though, I'm excited to figure out what it is. I'm excited for them to let us know. But at the moment, like, I'm very thankful for it, because how many action films have you seen where, like, people on the street or the police are always getting involved, and it kind of derails the action a little bit. It comes to the same point again. But I'm kind of glad that they've done it. I don't know why, and I can't wait to know why, because it's a bit infuriating. Like when you're watching it, I'm like, why is no one like screaming or running or doing anything or calling the police? But yeah, definitely, I think there's something there, and I think we will get told at some point. But whatever it is, I'm grateful for it.
If they ever do like a politician character in like number 4 or in the Continental or whatever, I think I'll be very annoyed, because I love the idea I've kind of created in my head now that, you know, the Vigo character, Yosef's son, or Yosef's father, in the first one, or the Italians in the second one. Like, I just love the idea that they run their respective cities, and they are like the regional governors of that country.
Yeah,
you know? Because even in John Wick 2, the sister, the crime boss in Italy, when she's having her kind of a coronation ceremony, you'd swear she was the queen having a coronation ceremony, as she's kind of being, you know, you're the new head of the family, you know. And I believe there's either a few cardinals there, or the Pope themselves is there. I might be remembering that wrong, but there are lots of religious figures. I don't think the Pope is there actually, but there are religious figures there as well. And I know that religion has always had an influence, particularly on the Italian crime families and the Italian American, like The Godfather and so on, weddings and funerals and things like that, christenings and baptisms and stuff. But this just felt like, yeah, of course I'm going to be there to pay respects to our new leader. You know, it feels like these crime bosses have way more power than any crime bosses in any previous movies you've ever seen, in any, you know, outside of the John Wick franchise. I don't think the first John Wick film was made with that intention, but whether whether it's conscious or otherwise, by the third chapter, it's very clearly kind of, it's either clumsiness or it's great storytelling. I can't figure out what it is they're going for. But if it is the idea that, if it is the world that I've kind of imagined, then I love it even more.
In chapter 2, he actually went to the Vatican, right? And he met the Pope, and he kissed his ring, John Wick.
Is it the
Remember
Pope?
it? Yeah, it's like a Pope in the Vatican. That's maybe why it's like he's taking his acceptance, or is taking his blessing to continue his job. I like how it was done. You know, It's different than the first one for sure, but there is like he goes to the Vatican.
Yeah, so there's a deleted scene. John Wick meets the Pope. Yeah,
yeah.
Are
He
you here
kisses.
for the Pope?
Yeah. Mm.
That is so
Yeah.
amazing. I love that.
See?
I think
Yeah.
you know what I'm gonna make my hot take for John Wick. Yeah, that's like the world is the way it is,
Yeah.
and they need to expand on that in the series. Okay, so definitely number 3 is my favorite, Parabellum. Love
Yeah.
it. Love the theme. Love the music. Love the story is essentially it's. See, I sound so silly now. I love the film. Had such an amazing time in the cinema. I have never watched it again. And I don't know why. I just think it's just in my mind. It's just this incredibly precious kind of thing, and I don't know. I just don't feel the need to watch it. Walk me through the plot of Part 3, Laura.
Okay, so at this point he's just been excommunicated from the whole organization, and he's looking for refuge. So he wants to be exported out of America and going over to Morocco, is it? I believe. To go and visit his old friend, of which he has a marker for. So she owes him a favor. So her favor is telling him where, kind of like, I'm not sure what you would call it, but like an influential figure that can kind of absolve him of his sins, if you will, and everything that he's done. So he goes to speak to him, and
Out in the desert, isn't it?
Yeah, out in the desert,
Yeah,
and his payment is to sort of sacrifice one of his fingers, his wedding finger as well, which I thought was very symbolic. And then he comes back to America, doesn't he? To kind of, I can't remember what he does in America.
Yeah, see, that's the thing I'm missing about the third one is I can't remember why he comes back to America, because you have this incredible shootout at the end, and you've got you've got this great shootout at the end. The hotel manager joins in the shootout. There's all these people, it's like wave after wave of enemy. It's really a video game kind of a third act, video game style third act. Asim, help us out here. Why is he back in America?
He's actually in the when we start with the chapter 3, he still have the bounty on him. It's a $14 million, right? So when he goes to the elder guy in Morocco, the Arabian guy, we know he is even more powerful than the Italians, and this is where he actually take out the bounty on him. So it's like either he pay it or he talk to them, say, okay, John Wick is in my, I'm taking care of him. Let's take out the bounty. That's how he actually returned back, is because there's no bounty on him. But there is still that rivalry with the and that guy, when he's a very famous actor, and when he actually noticed that there is no bounty, he still want to kill John Wick because it's a rivalry. It's never been about the money. It's not about the money. It's more about, I want to face him. I want to take him. Because in the past, I think John Wick kicked his ass so many times, so he's trying to get revenge.
Yeah, there's also the adjudicator. They entered the story to act on behalf of the High Table to correct the people that helped John Wick during his kind of fall from grace, and they are going around doling out punishments to those people, and also they hire I've forgotten his name.
Zero, is it?
Zero, who's a massive fan of John Wick and who's delighted to take on the opportunity to try and bring him down, kill him. So,
and that's where the kind of wave after wave then comes from, of them all trying to So it's almost like a never meet your heroes type thing.
Yeah.
In the third act, it's it's a very cool action. It's a very cool third act, very well paced. Some beautiful kind of action scenes. The showdown between Zero and Wick is really incredible as well. And but it's tough to watch because and I remember there was a warning went up in the cinema to say like, if you suffer from or if you're sensitive to strobe lighting, then don't watch this scene. Like, leave the cinema. It goes on for ages. The flashing lights is just it's insane, and in a big movie theater screen, it's very, very hard to watch. I hate when people do that in movies. They did it in Stranger Things as well. It drove me mad. I just fast forward through the whole thing. But otherwise, it's a really, really visually incredible third act. And yeah, I just love the hotel manager coming in with the shotgun, and I thought, oh well, that's it. He's gonna die. Of course he doesn't, and it's just brilliant. So John Wick then at the end, and we haven't even mentioned Halle Berry's character in it. So this is the character you were talking about, Laura, that Sophia, that owes a debt to John and will help him. And she has these attack dogs.
Yeah.
And they are just the best thing in the entire trilogy. And I mean that with the high, like, I'm not being flippant at all. Like, they are incredible. She she can do this, like she snaps her fingers or she whistles or whatever it is. She has this way of controlling them. And it's like I'm playing Elden Ring right now on my PS5, and there's this thing where you can summon spirits, and it's like 3, and one of them is like you can like summon different things, but one of them is like 3 wolves, and you can go into boss fights and you can use them in those kind of situations. And these 3 spirit wolves will appear, and they get killed so easily in these things. It's so weird. You can only use them in boss fights, but where they get just killed so quickly. But it's so good. I always think I'm like Halle Berry and John Wick. It's just such a great feeling. I love those dogs in that film. I just want to go and get one of those dogs. Like, it's just amazing. And I do love the symbolism of bringing back dogs into this again. Like, this is a film where the death of a dog at the beginning is the thing that sets everything off. And it's the death of an animal. And then by the end of this first film, he's rescuing an animal. And that animal is kind of in peril throughout the second film, but ultimately, and he's running with his dog away at the end. By the third film, it's almost like that dog, even though it's still there, has evolved into 3 giant attack dogs. And it's already kind of an attack dog in its own right. It's not something you'd want to pick a fight with anyway. But now it's evolved to just these 3, like the kind of dogs the military would use for finding.
Yeah, they're German Shepherds.
German Shepherds. Sorry, I know nothing about dogs, but it's just incredible, like how the way that they've evolved that plot device through the 3 movies. I can't wait. Like, what are they going to do with 4? Like, I mean, it's so yeah. At the end of the film, he jumps off a building. He survives. This is not Jason Bourne jumping off a building into water and then kind of shaking it off and swimming away. How the hell, like, what do you think about that ending?
It was really interesting. I mean, I like how they show that he is really suffering with every time we see the movie, like with every blow he's taking, with every blood he's actually spilling, every time he gets shot, every time he gets stabbed. We can see that he is struggling to continue. He's just trying to get to a safe distance. And we never saw something like this in an action film. And this is where good way of writing your hero is that he is similar to us as audience. So we can feel that he is struggling. And we've been in his place so many times. I mean, if you're playing football, if you're playing, any kind of martial arts, you know how stressful, how tiresome it's going to be on the long run. But I think The Fall is just one of the best. I mean, for me, it's just amazing, and how he picks himself up and he always is trying to go. And I like how they actually put it in a very small, narrow place. It's so symbolic to, it's a never-ending journey,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Laura?
I was a bit like, all right, I don't know. I was a bit like, I don't know, because I think he gets shot by Winston on the rooftop, and that's what makes him like fall over. But he's wearing a bulletproof suit, so if I'm gonna believe a bulletproof suit, I have to believe that he's capable of like withstanding that and escaping. I don't know, It looked very painful though. I remember just thinking like, you must have broken your back. Like that's crazy. But he does end up at Lawrence Fishburne's character's feet. So it could have been a homeless person in the alley was there and he's like, oh, that's John Wick. Let me really quick just kind of, I mean, that could have happened. Let me take him to,
You landed on one of my men, John.
yeah,
Like, get up.
he's lying down. So I mean, I don't know that he got up and ran away because it's just the consecrator. She comes downstairs. No, the adjudicator, sorry, comes downstairs and then she looks in the alley and then he's just gone. So, I mean, it's more realistic if he didn't run away, I think. But yeah,
yeah, I remember seeing it and thinking, I hope he survived, but it does come at a cost to my suspension of disbelief, I think. But I would rather we get more movies than just write them off, and particularly just have him fall off a building. I think John Wick deserves better. So, but yeah, no, I have to say I really loved part 3. I need to watch it again. I only watched it once, but I enjoyed it so much. A really enjoyable time at the movie theater, like where most times when I go to the cinema, my goal really is just, I know I'm going to watch a good movie because I'll do my research before I go into it. I don't just go say, oh, well, let's see what this film is about. I'll know if I'm going to enjoy it before I go into it. But what I really want is just, I want to know that I got an experience I couldn't get at home. And I'm not somebody who believes you can only get the best experience in a movie theater. I don't believe that. Not anymore. But I really felt like, yeah, that was the one movie. I didn't mind watching John Wick on my phone when I was on a train. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I didn't mind watching John Wick 2 on Netflix on my big TV. But John Wick 3, I would have been very annoyed with myself if I hadn't gone to see that in the cinema. And just the horse kicking the guy in the head is so there's like this guy behind the horse. John is next to the horse. John hits the horse. The horse then bucks and kicks the guy behind him, and he goes flying up to the wall. Like I don't know, the wall is shattered after. It's incredible. The action in this is so inventive, so imaginative. There's like all these throwbacks to westerns. Like he builds a revolver as a guy is throwing knives at him, and then he shoots them. He builds an old gun or whatever. There's so much amazing stuff in this that is just so much fun, and it is storytelling, even if those action moments are, you could get away with in any action script just writing down a one-liner, they fight or something like that. It's the old George Lucas shortcut, But in this, the action is so well paced. It is part of, if the journey, like we talk about character journeys all the time, but we rarely ever talk about the physical journey of getting from A to B. And that's what the action does in this. The action is, if you think about a scene in Lord of the Rings where they have to figure out a password to unlock an entrance to a cave or something like that, or they're trying to make their way, over this mountain and, everybody's losing their nerve or whatever. We don't think of that as an action sequence. We don't think of that. We just think of that as just another scene on the journey. These are the equivalent of that. Mm-hmm. So him fighting a guy in a hallway and then bursting out the back exit of some building in an alleyway and then running to a car and then the car getting smashed by a truck or whatever. Like all of that is part of, it's the equivalent of Gandalf trying to get everybody over the snow-capped mountains, and it's just brilliantly paced. Yeah. Does the storytelling qualities come through in the script of those action sequences, or how are the action sequences written in terms of how detailed are they, or is the writer kind of taking shortcuts, or how did it feel for you when you were reading them? How does it hold up to watching them on screen? Obviously it's a different experience, but what's the comparison?
I think in the first one, and this is one of the things I really, really loved about the script, was that there was action in there, but it was nowhere near as detailed, but it gave the way that it was written gave the exact same feeling as the way you saw the actualized version in the film. And I think that's what was so good. You're never going to be able to like write an action sequence as well as it's going to look on the screen. So don't try, I don't think. Um, but yeah, the way that it was written, it just sounded and it felt like what we saw. And that was probably the best way to do it. So yeah, it wasn't as detailed, but you still got the same eventual feeling. And I think that was good because you got a feel of where the action wanted to land, but the writer knew full well that all of that was probably going to be cut, and just have room to be inspired, and for the stunt coordinators to come in and choreograph something that fit the environment and the eventual fighting style of the actor and all that kind of stuff. I think leaving room for that was just probably one of the best decisions when writing the script.
Yes.
Asim, any thoughts on the
Yeah.
script?
No, it's actually very good on how they actually describe it. I know it's not that detailed like what we saw on the TV, like what Laura said, but that actually reminded me of when I read the script of The Bourne Identity, the first one, and how they explain the fight scene. It's just one page, one liner. You know, every blow, there's just one line. It's actually taking it. But when you see it on screen, it's so fast. It's so grit. It's so agile at the same time. But when you read it on the screen, you kind of imagine how he's going to punch him, how he's going to take blocks, and how he's going to defeat himself. But at the same time, you cannot go into that memento of when you see it on the TV or on the screen. So I think it's a very good way of having this stunt coordinator and also fight coordinator to be on set to help the screenwriter to explain to him how they will expand it. And I think for screenwriters, I think if it's, I don't know if you agree with me on this one or not, but yeah, we should actually write very good action scene, but we shouldn't go into so many details because we're not professionals, you know, in the end, we're not kickboxing or anything. But we also have to leave some space for other participants to breathe into it and give it some life instead of us, because they're much more into that kind of things. And I think that's where the collaboration between the writer, director, and also stunt coordinator, and also the actors in this film came together on how to expand this world and how to set the tone for the second and the third one, and also the fourth and fifth. There is going to be a fifth John Wick, so they're talking about it.
You do make a really great point there. You know, we tend to be more considerate when it comes to performance. You know, we don't explain how the actor should deliver this line. You know, well, you're not. You know, you shouldn't anyway. Again, we're not trained. You know, most writers aren't trained actors. You know, and I'm not a trained actor, so I would never assume to tell an actor how they should deliver a line in a script. I mean, occasionally you might want to just say, you know, in this moment they have to be whispering because, let's say, the monsters out and quiet are going to hear us or whatever. That's fine. But this, you know, you don't need to be explaining everything in detail. And I think that yeah, you're right. The same extends to the action sequence as well. And I think if the action, if the value of the action is only in those cool little moments of execution, then your action might not have any value to it at all. You know, John Wick assembling a weapon isn't meaningless because it's showing a skill set that he has. Even if we already knew he could probably do that, we're seeing it in action. And you're able to show kind of a sense of pacing and a sense of dread. You know, the knives are getting closer and all that, whatever it is. You know, I might be remembering the scene itself incorrectly, but you know, you get the idea. Or when a certain character picks up a gun for the first time, like the hotel manager, you're thinking, you know, this isn't meaningless. So how he picks it up, how he uses the gun is not actually all that important, really. So, you know, you don't need to go into that kind of detail necessarily, but you've still brought value to it. And I think that's a really important point. Anyway, final thoughts before we go. The Continental. What are we expecting? Laura? You just heard about this for the first time
Yeah,
now.
I have no thoughts. I didn't even know about it.
Mel Gibson is in it. I imagine he will be the Winston of this show. I can't imagine he's going to be the hero of the show. I don't know. So, Asim, what are you kind of hoping for out of this?
I think with this one, they will make it more expansion about the world and the rules, and also maybe start with explaining how all that came to life, how this Continental hotel came to life. Was it just a normal Continental? Then assassins start to come in like the old Western when they go to the bar after they, is that the way it came out, or did it actually have from the get-go, oh, this is going to be an assassin hotel to rest and have information and get, as you say, medical attention? Would that be the same, the question? And also, who's going to be the assassin? I think they're going to put a girl instead of John Wick, because Keanu is actually busy with Berserk. It's similar to kind of John Wick. It's based on a comic book, and he has actually written this comic book with someone else. So he is on Net. It's going to be with Netflix. So I don't think he's going to be in the Continental. I think it's going to be something else.
So just to say, yeah. So this is from looking at IMDb. This is going to be a prequel set. Several decades before. So Mel Gibson plays a character called Cormac. I'm guessing he will be the Winston, like the Winston style character of that show. But there is actually, Winston is going to be in this. So Colin Woodell is playing young Winston Scott. I wonder, is young Winston the protagonist of this show? And that this feeds into then when you watch the John Wick movies, you are seeing. When you look at Winston, you're seeing a very different Winston than we would have initially thought. The Adjudicator is in it, played by Katie McGrath, so obviously that would be a different person. I like the idea that these are positions, that they're not just. It's not just like I am the Adjudicator, a name that I've given myself or anything like that. It's like this is a position that is filled, and when somebody resigns or is written out or whatever, somebody else steps into the role, like you would with a manager of a bank or something. I like the idea that there's that. And Sharon, the hotel manager, is also in it as a young man as well. So we are getting some returning characters in their younger form. I think it could be a really cool show, actually. It's a mini-series, they're calling it, so I don't think it's going to go on for more than a season.
It's 3 episodes going to be.
Is it really only 3? Yeah, 3 episodes, yeah. See, now when I hear that, I'm thinking, what's the point? Just do a movie.
I think they want to do it like, the Sherlock Holmes from the BBC, 1 hour and a half for each episode. And each season, it's going to be just 3 episodes, and that's it. So I think this is where they're going. But I would be interested to see the young Winston, to see would he be the same as John Wick as an assassin? Then is it like a stage where you're an assassin, then you kind of go up on the level and you become the manager of the hotel? How does it go? Would John Wick, if he didn't actually resign, would he be the next Winston?
Yeah. And I was just going to say, wouldn't that be so awesome?
Oh man! I would go to that hotel.
And you could absolutely do that. Like, you could do a movie 20 years from now. I don't know what we'll all be doing 20 years from now, but you could have John Wick. You could have a Continental movie of some sort, and a character being I don't know, the grandson of Charon or something like that. Probably pronouncing his name wrong, but you have him, I don't know, being the hero, and John Wick is the Winston, and then John Wick has to, screw the rules. Who cares if we spill blood on the Continental? I always hated that rule, and then suddenly you've got this great third act movie where rather than him being the star, he's just giving this other guy the rub, and And that would be really
I
cool.
think that would be cool. I mean, I would love to see it. I cannot wait to see it, to be honest with you.
Do you think they'll keep making the John Wick franchise, whatever it looks like, even if it's not called John Wick? Do you think this is a franchise that's not going away like for the next 10 years, 20 years?
I think they build it. They build it for that kind of reason. They're going to do a TV series. I think they're in talks right now with a video game. I think they're going to do it because if you look at it, it's similar to the Hitman game. So it's going to be very similar, but this one with much more the gold, much more about how you go into the continent. It's going to be much more interesting to see these kind of details. I think with what they need to do after chapter 5, they should introduce a new character. We'll take for another 5 sequels, other 5, which is a 10 John Wick kind of I don't. It's not going to be a trilogy. It's going to be a franchise like Fast and Furious.
Laura, do you think where's your kind of a long-term vision for this franchise? Like, do you think they should wrap it up at a certain point or keep it going like the Fast franchise? Or
I think that they will do. They will keep building and keep trying to find a way to keep it alive and stuff. Me personally, I don't like that idea. I think they should kind of celebrate that they've done something great and kind of just leave it alone and let it be. It feels like at a certain point you're just kind of trying to exploit it to get as much out of it as you can, or it can come across that way at least. But I think John Wick really, really makes that world. And if you take kind of like the bedrock of the world and apply it to a different character, I think yes, it's going to work. But why do it? What's the point? If you're not like, what are you doing it for? I don't know.
The Continental will be a real experiment, I think, for that. It'll be a real test to see, and maybe that's why they're doing it as miniseries, is just to kind of give themselves some room for experimentation without ruining the integrity of the movie franchise, and maybe that they're just kind of saying, right, let's see what people respond to, what kind of legs this franchise really does have. I don't think it'll ever bring in the money that the Fast movies bring in or anything like that, but it has brought in a surprisingly large amount of money. Chapter 3 did give whatever Marvel movie was out that year a run for its money. I don't think it obviously it didn't make record-breaking numbers, but
it cost 50 million and it actually brought more than 650 million back.
Yeah.
So that's just chapter 3. So if we take the 3 together, it's 1 billion. Yeah. So it's very interesting to see how it came up.
People love John Wick. We're gushing over it, but people love that franchise. And I think the people behind it are going to be shaping the way that action movies and action television gets created, I think, for a long time to come. Because they're going to be in that position of power to make, you want to make that show, get Derek Kolstad in to do that. Or they'll be producing them or whatever. They'll have their fingers. In the same way Zack Snyder, for example, after he did, I think it was a Batman vs. Superman, he then suddenly found himself having and even Chris Nolan, after he did the Dark Knight Rises, he was an exec on Man of Steel, for example. They wanted his input into, however much it was, but they wanted the name attached to it. And I do feel that people like Chad Stahelski and Derek Kolstad will have their names all over this, all over like big action franchises to come, the new stuff that hasn't already kind of found its place. Guys, thanks very much for the chat. Great movies. I'm going to go back and rewatch them, I think, this week because, for obvious reasons. And we'll all be driving around playing the John Wick theme in our cars as we do our shopping. Anyway, guys, thanks very much. And thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode. In the meantime, check out our website, thescriptdepartment.net. Hit us up on social media. Links are in the description. I'll put the link in for Laura's blog post as well, where she does a really great analysis of the first 10 pages of John Wick. And subscribe to the podcast and this and the YouTube channel as well. Just search for The Script Department if you can't find it. Thanks very much, everyone.